Welcome to the Q4 2025 AMP industry report, combination of AMP and NCS wash intel. Some of the most comprehensive data you're going to see in the car wash space, some of the most interesting, intriguing data, I think, as well. With me, my good friend here, Shane Wells, a man with a very handsome haircut as well. We're going to talk through just what this industry report is and get you guys excited about what's in it and anything you care to share, Shane? Like, we've got some background, some industry history here. We should
Yeah,
probably talk through.
I think being involved in the industry for us means a couple different things. We're involved with the data side that we're talking about today, but we're also involved as operators. And this is very impactful for us. It helps us make decisions, think about things in new ways. So I love that we get to see it from both sides. It really makes it more interesting to me.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff because this is data that I think a lot of us wish was available all along. And so now as the industry is maturing, and I think part of that maturing process for the car wash industry as a whole is the aggregation of more data. I mean, a better understanding of everything, not just how many cars did I wash, but whose car did I wash and what's my churn rate and all that stuff. We've been working towards this kind of inflection point of more and more data, making operators smarter versus just kind of gut feel. I mean, you can only get so far on gut, right? And that's a lot of us have had to do that for a long time. The longer you've been in the industry, probably more gut decisions you've made. But as we inch closer to the kind of the modernization and technological advances in car wash, we're getting these data points that are just they're cool. They're fascinating. So I'm really excited to share this with everybody and kind of dive into the report. One thing I think is really kind of a more recent development that I think is really interesting is the fact that our last industry report was actually cited by Raymond James Investments, which is cool. I mean, that means something. I mean, we were talking about this earlier, but I mean, share your thoughts. I mean, like the fact that a financial institution is giving investment advice and citing the AMP industry report, that's powerful stuff.
Well, yeah, you said before we were relying on our gut and that type of thing. As an individual operator, that's one aspect. You as a multi-site operator in close to 30 sites, and then really large operators, 100, 200, 400 plus locations. And then there's people outside the industry looking to get into it through acquisitions or new construction, investment of some type, and they're looking to resources like Raymond James for that aggregate data. So to be part of that, absolutely, that puts us.
Yeah, and it's useful to anybody, right? Because I mean, it doesn't matter if you're inside or outside the industry. Understanding, you made an excellent point we were talking earlier. Whether you're looking to enter the market, you're a new investor in car wash, you're an existing car wash operator, maybe considering do you stay in or get out, or you're just somebody on the sidelines looking to invest money into different things. That's all day. Those are all cohorts of people that can use this information and make something of it, make an informed decision instead of a gut decision, right? And so, super powerful stuff. So, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the AMP report or maybe seeing this for the first time, the way we run this report, AMP and NCS combined have an ungodly amount of information and data. And it would be crazy to stuff all of this into a report. It almost becomes undigestible because it's the embarrassment of riches, too much stuff, and we want to give this to you in bite-sized chunks. So we really start out every report, though, with the national snapshot and break down the regions and kind of just what's the health of the industry look like as a whole? What are wash volumes and those kind of things looking like? What are trends out there? Those big macros across the country and then region by region, west, central, east. But the deep dive in every report is something unique, and which is something that we're really proud of that we bring to the industry is that this is not a canned report that we just update the numbers every single time. We give you those kind of baseline numbers at the top. Then we start diving into these very specific topics around. We did one that was around age and gender on one of our first reports. And it's fascinating because that's demographic data that's helpful for driving decisions and understanding your customer cohorts. And that is really driven by you guys. At the bottom of this report, if you go to the link and view this report, we want you to interact with the data, but you're going to scroll down to the bottom and you're going to see a field where you can actually help us improve this. You can leave your feedback. What do you think of this iteration of the report? Was there something we missed? Do you disagree over or under on the numbers? Is there something that we should be including in the next report? So we have all this data. We want you operators out there or anybody engaging with this report, honestly, to give us that feedback because that's going to tell us in the Q1 2026, what are we going to talk about besides just the national big
This
picture?
third report was largely fashioned by the input received off the first two.
Yep.
And we will continue to do that either through this or through discussions that we have with people. We're taking that in and looking at, like you said, there's so much data. Not only would it be a crazy task to try and put all the data into a report on our side, we don't sleep now. So I don't know how we would get it all in, but as an operator or an investor, someone reading it, if there's too much data, it starts to blend in and not become useful and actionable. And that's really what we want, is this to become actionable to affect change.
Yeah, you'll even see that in the report as you're going through segment by segment. We include these kind of insights and kind of give you some actionable context. The raw numbers are great, and you can pick those apart. And I love the idea that you can take these, like we break down the West, Central, and East, right? And so you can look at those, and if you're a regional operator, you can look at your specific region and decide, are you performing above or below the standard, and make some adjustments based on that, or just understand where you're falling in this. But then we give you this extra insight that's a little bit from our data scientists looking at it and kind of interpreting in plain terms. What's that number mean? What's the projection? Where's it headed? What should you extrapolate from it? You can make all kinds of conclusions from this data, but then having data scientists that are combing through this data and going, here's the distilled answer of what you should take away from this, and take away other stuff, but here's what we want you to get. So I love that part of this report. High level, and you'll see this in the report once you click on the link and get into it, but pretty decent numbers for Central. Central leads the charge for the most part. Slight tick down in the West. We talked to some of our advisory council, some of our, best clients about what they saw out there. A lot of macro headwinds that probably drove some of these changes. A lot related to weather. Some regions were seeing really, really heavy rains, extended periods of rain, which will always impact things. So
Phoenix had the highest fall precipitation rate ever. And that's much of Arizona, and they get the weather from California. California's Q4 was substantially wet. Let's just say that. So that did drive the West quite a bit.
Yeah, and I think, but it's helpful to understand if you're an operator in those regions and you see, where did that region fall plus minus over, year over year? Do your numbers match that? And if they don't, hallelujah, if you're overperforming, right? If you go, wow, everybody else was, down this much, or I was up this much and everybody else was only up this much. That's a super powerful piece of information to have, because you know what your adjustments are, or that what you're doing is working. So lean into it more heavily, right? If you're outperforming the cohort. And it's important to understand too, this isn't just, we're not like focused on one, specific set of operators. This is 75% of the market is being sampled in this across all regions. So this isn't just people who are on the AMP platform or anything like that.
It's not on any specific platform. Now there's about 80% of those are express, and the other 20% make up full serve and flex tunnel washes. So the express does dominate the data shown here, but they also are representative of that in the market. So it makes sense. It tallies.
Yep. And we're even breaking down for you, for those of you who haven't looked at the report yet, get in there, click that link and look at this, because the data is really, really cool. We're even breaking it down month, quarter, annual, all this stuff, so you can look at it if you haven't been collecting data. Because I've talked to some operators that are late to the game in starting to really understand their data, right? And, they opened the first couple of sites and it was just, putting out fires left and right, making sure the tunnel's running. Like, they didn't really think to collect tons of data, and maybe their system wasn't collecting it, and now they're getting it. So you don't have to have years of data to look at. Even if you have a small sample size, you can take just a monthly slice of the data that we're given in this year over year, and start to compare yourself to those. So I think that's really, really powerful stuff. And I love that you added that too, because it is, the market is dominated by express tunnels. That's not a secret to anybody in the industry, right? But there is those operators out there doing flex and full serve, and that's represented in this data as well. So this is not skewed heavily towards, it's going to be skewed naturally because of the volume, but it's not skewed completely towards just express tunnels. There is some data from our flex and full serve operators in there. So diving into what the actual nuts and bolts of the other part of the report is. So beyond those national trends and the state by state and all that stuff, we actually started diving into churn. And that is always, I have 30 years in automotive appearance, but relatively short period now in the car wash space. And it was been beaten into me from day one as churn is a metric that everybody is worried about, right?
Everybody.
Add the members and keep the members in. And if you're losing them too fast, everything's wrong. It's simple economics, right? So in this edition of the report, we are diving into not just what the churn numbers are. Everybody knows what their churn number is. That's an easy piece of math to figure out. How many people left? Why? Let's start to understand why. What are the triggers? What are the trends? The people who churn, what do we know about them? And that's where we start to add these additional layers of information that you're not really going to find anywhere else. And I think one of the really, really interesting ones is the first one in the report is the vehicle year. Like that is fascinating to me because it illustrates a pattern. People with newer cars, I have some guesses as to why. I'm going to ask you why you think that is. People with newer cars tend to churn less. People with older cars are churning more. So what's your guess? What do you think? We don't know the reason, but we can tell the people that the data is there. They can start to understand this.
Yeah, I think, older cars break down more so they can't get into the wash.
Yeah, he's on the corner just right. He's trying to get to the
He's
wash.
trying.
It overheated.
Can't get there. No, certainly there's the economic component.
Mhm,
The visibility.
mhm,
If your vehicle is, new and has a crisp paint job and a bright color, you want to show off that investment.
mhm, mhm.
Um, if it's 15, 20 years old, there's not the same compelling reason.
Yeah.
Um, so economics, visibility, are there others?
I think I think you're onto something with the newer cohort specifically because everybody knows that if even if you've never had a new car, but you got a slightly newer car, the car that you really wanted, everybody's emotionally invested in that early,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
so you're looking for things to do to just enjoy it, and part of maintenance anymore, obviously, is, like, keeping it clean, right? And so you get to enjoy your car, driving it's part of it, but then there's the enjoying it part and cleaning it and maintaining it, and everybody's really in love with that car that first few years, and I think that also explains the propensity to see churn go as car age goes because, "Well, I've had this car for a few years. Maybe I'm not as in love with it as I got my eye on that next model already." Washing isn't as important to me as it was on day one. The other piece of that too is we start looking at age groups. And this is a little bit tied into one of the earlier reports we did where we looked at
Yes.
age and gender demographics, but this one dives a little bit more into the age piece. And I think that is also really interesting in just that the split where the age groups fall is it's a pretty linear thing. And without giving away too much, the younger demo is churning out at a pretty higher rate, and we can make theories. I'm sure I would guess something along the lines of disposable income isn't there for your, 18 to 24s. They're maybe shopping for deals a little bit more, so they're bouncing from membership to membership, canceling out. And then as you go up in age, we see longer tenure. So, any theories on any additional
I'd
theories
be
you'd add on to that?
really interested, and I know we can do this, and will in the future, is tying that younger cohort to older modern vehicles
There you go.
and seeing how those 2 connect.
Well,
It
interestingly enough, there is at the bottom of the report. That's super cool. So you guys are going to love this. Again, click the link and get into the report, but you can go to the bottom of the report just above where you're going to give us that feedback. And there are these sliders that you can adjust: age of vehicle, age of customer, time since last wash, basically manipulate the various aspects we're going to talk about. And it'll give you a risk rating for what that group looks like. So young kid with old car, probably high risk for churn, right? Young kid, new car, well, maybe his risk for churn is a little lower. So super, super
The
helpful.
only other thing I can think of is attention span because I have an 18-year-old and I struggle. I'll just say it. I struggle.
He almost forgets he has a car wash membership, right? So it is a very powerful tool that you can manipulate all of these things. So the vehicle year, the member age. Another key component in all this is the time since last wash. And I don't think this is really a big secret. We know that people who use their memberships are seeing the value, right?
Mhm.
If you do the math for them in your
Any
marketing.
business.
Yeah, exactly. Any business really. But yeah, in
Yes.
car wash, you do the hey, one wash pays for your membership, or you wash 2 or more times a month, the membership pays for itself. That's littered through everybody's marketing. But if a member starts washing less, what's the time frame where they start to churn? So we have that data in this report where the cohorts start to fall. So where do you get most worried? If a member doesn't show up for this period of time, where is your effort spent in outreach? And I would say this is it's washing's a habit. And this is my advice from an operator side. You're trying to build a habit. You want that member to be back. You want to be a part of that daily, weekly, monthly routine, whatever it is for that member that shows them value. You see that habit start to drop off. It's no different than going to the gym. You're really good about going to the gym every morning, and then it's Thanksgiving. I'm going to take a couple weeks off. It's really hard to get back into that routine because new routines and habits have
Very
formed,
true.
right? So this, I think, in my opinion, can drive marketing ideas, like who are you targeting in your marketing internally? You are this cohort of members. Who are you doing your outreach to? An email isn't necessarily going to trigger somebody to wash, but it might be able to remind them of the value that they have sitting there with you, right? And then where's the magic point where you get those ghost members where they've been with you so long they almost kind of forgot they had the membership, right?
Right.
And this that is a significant part of any membership program is those guys that only show up occasionally, but you want to make sure that they're showing up at some regular cadence because there's a direct correlation between time since last wash and propensity to churn. I'm sure, yeah, I mean, you've probably seen that at your wash as well, right? The people who don't show
Oh,
up are the ones that go, "I'm not getting my value out of this anymore," right?
absolutely. Yes. So I think having access to this report, seeing the data, being reminded of it, reflecting on your own business and what you're seeing, these are all fantastic things now available. Having the AMP software itself, then now it becomes a rather than having to go and think about it, calculate it, act on it. Now it's intuitive because it's pushing to you through the software. So that's a really neat aspect of it. So those are three aspects of churn. Price tier,
Price tier is another big one, and that's also included in the report, and I'm glad you bring that one up, because price sensitivity is a thing. We know this. Some people buy because the price is low. Some people stay because the price is low. But where does that start to impact your churn? We discussed earlier, and I think there's some advice based on the size of your network of washes, right? If you're a
right?
large operator, I think general consensus would be you probably want to attack at price point, right? You want volume. You want to get a lot of people in because you got to fill all those washes. Maybe if you're on the smaller side, maybe you're targeting a more premium price point because you've got the ability to provide more personalized attention. You're an operator like you, so you can spend the time on site. You get to know those customers. You're the local quote unquote mom and pop, right? So you can afford to build value in a higher price point because there's consistency in the service and they know you and you feel like the local wash, right? And there's also the ability to then downsell, right? You can manage that activity. Somebody's at a high
You're
price
saying
point.
downsell is a positive.
Downsell is a positive because I'd rather have some of your money than none of your money, right? If you're my customer, if you walk away completely, I make nothing on you. But if I can keep you in my membership program at even a lower tiered wash, at least you're still with me. So there's the argument to be made is starting people high gives you an opportunity to sell down over time. You start them at the bottom tier. Where do you go from there?
But you still need more expertise to be able to downsell. So you have to have trained people,
Mhm.
managers that are involved, ownership that is paying attention at scale. That can be difficult.
That's really challenging. Yeah, no, the more sites you have to do that on, the more, your system's only as good as the weakest link in it, right? And so if you have a weak manager in a region that isn't really training well, then your downsell process isn't going to be effective, right? And so, to that point of if you're a smaller operator, maybe you can afford to be at that higher price tier, and then you have downsell as an activity to keep people in strategically, and then you can train, you can scale that because it's not massive scale, and there are large operators out there that scale incredibly well,
Yes.
but it's hard to pay attention to every single site down to the nitty gritty. And downsell is one of those things it can be a policy, but the execution of it generally not done perfectly across an entire network the bigger the network gets. Another advantage of like doing AMP as we run AMP at our sites is you can automate a lot of those processes with AMP, which is awesome because then it's scripting and everything shows up for the attendants and they can wander down that path with the customer to downsell.
Well, and
So
it's alerting you even before that they could be in danger of wanting to churn.
exactly.
So you can preventive medicine rather than trying to downsell afterwards to treat the symptom.
Yeah, you can triage the relationship before it becomes a critical situation where they
Yes.
already said, "I wanna cancel." You already know that their tendency may be, maybe we should offer them something a little bit more value-based instead of premium, right?
Yeah.
And it
Really meet the customer with what they want.
exactly. And know before they know, right? That's the idea of predictive churn is knowing that they wanna cancel before they even do, which is just wild that we're at that point, but the data is getting there that we can actually start to, and that's what this report allows for, is, like, starting to understand what are those triggers, who in the age group and what type of car and in what region is tending to cancel, and is the price the factor. And you can play with the sliders in the report and go, you know what, I have a high risk cohort right here. My customers are, yeah, I got a lot of people, I need to do something, I need to react before they start showing up and want to cancel. That's powerful stuff. So all that said, we've got the sliders, we've got these unique aspects to it. We want people to get to the report. What do you think the most valuable part of this is in terms of I'm an operator and I'm not on AMP. I don't have the AMP clarity system, so I don't have this access to this data for myself, but I have now access to industry standards and I can start to understand this stuff. So walk me through how would you use this report as an operator
Uh,
without a clarity system on his site?
well, I think the I'll take the first part of that question first. What's most important about this is if people are reading it, if they're going through the data, they're thinking about it. That right there is the most important. Being interested in digging deeper, finding things that, like earlier you said, if you're above that, count yourself lucky. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
But
maybe do more of what you're doing.
do more of that. You say, okay, we're beating in, we're in Colorado. So I'm beating the Colorado numbers. I'm beating the Western region numbers. Why is that? Which stores are leading that charge? Is it because of on-site management, promotions that we did there, scripts that we've given to our attendants, offerings on site because we had towels and bottles? Bottle service would be nice.
Different kind of car wash.
Different kind of car wash. So what is it that's causing the success? Or conversely, what is it that has changed things so that now I need to look at it and go in and do some of that triage that you were talking about? So I think the first most important thing is having the interest in somewhere that you can grind the saw against to sharpen it. And the data does that.
Yeah, it's competitive analysis without you having to pay for competitor data, right? I mean, you're getting a snapshot down to a region and a state level that you can look at, where am I versus this? Because
How many times have you had someone ask you, "Hey, how's everyone else doing in the area?"
like, yeah, and
It's
it lets you have a
constant.
friendly relationship with the guy around the corner, and they're not going to share all their information. Like, yeah, we're overperforming in the 35 to 44 demographic. They're not going to tell you that, but this gives you, again, it's the sum of all things. It's 75% of the market, but it's
Yeah.
enough to go on, and you can then measure yourself against that data. And I think that is, you can't you can't execute on what you don't measure, right? You don't know. Like, am I doing great? Am I doing bad? Well, how do you adjust if you don't even know what good and bad looks like? Well, now we're giving you the data goes, here's average.
So what would you focus on?
I think one of the most powerful things in it really is that understanding the customer tendency. Even if
Mm,
you don't know, again, I'll put myself, we've got the 27 locations. It's a little harder for us to do at scale, but let's put myself in the seat of a 1 to 5 location operator, and you're very much hands-on at that stage. You can start to look at, you can train your attendants on, guys, people with cars of this year and older have a 2% higher churn rate in the region. We really, really need to pay special attention and really speak to those guys more. Or you take the age demographic and you go, guys, we're trying to sell memberships to everybody, but the best sales are those people in the 55 and older bracket because they are the longest tenure with the highest average ticket. Going to ignore the 18 to 24. We want to sell them memberships too, but the whales in our cohorts of customers are these people in these age ranges. So you can start to even coach. You've got good salespeople on site, just giving them those little tips, those perk their ears up. Hey, you see a brand new car coming through and it's driven by a guy who looks like he's in his mid 50s. That is a high value sale right there, because not only is he probably going to tend towards a higher value plan, he's going to tend to stick around for longer versus the kid who shows up in a beat up, 2001 Toyota Tercel who looks like he's 18. Yeah, if he wants a membership, let's sell him the membership. Let's also frame that conversation appropriately for who he is. He's probably not interested in the top plan. Don't make any assumptions, but offer it. And if he goes, that's too expensive, you know where he's going to land. You have some inside data, some intel that you can kind of use for your scripting and your tact that you use for that. Not all attendants are going to be that great at it, but if you can give them at least a leg up, it's the cheat code for who you're talking to a little bit. And I love that piece of this data because that's where you start to unlock personalized conversations. And I think the future of everything, not just car wash membership, but the future of everything is really tied to personalization. That's
mm.
that's where customers want to be. They want to feel like they're valued as an individual, and this allows you to do that to a certain degree. So you're tailoring your scripting based on who they are. So that's my take on it. That's what I would use first, but there's just so much in this. You could take this data 100 different ways and make decisions about how to run your wash all different kinds of ways.
And so when people are doing this and they're thinking, "Gosh, I wish I could see it this way," or "I wish," that's where they provide that feedback.
Yep.
Please provide the feedback, because even in this report, you'll see on the quarterlies, it's now expanded out over the last two versions for more quarters
Mhm.
on the timeline, and that was a direct ask from several people that said, "Hey, I'd love to see all the way back to Q1 2024.
Yep.
And absolutely, that makes sense because you want to be able to compare across.
Mhm.
Um, if you haven't seen the other two reports,
Available. You can actually get to them from this report.
you can get right there. Yeah. And how has it progressed? How has it changed? What's most important to me at my location or potential location?
Mhm.
This is what we like to see.
Yeah. And it is really it's used a lot in marketing speak. Oh, we're letting customers drive it. This is really at the core of it. That's what this is because there's no point in reporting data that's useless, right? If we give you a bunch of data that you can't take action on, then it's just another report, right? It's just another industry report with a bunch of data that probably looks like the other industry reports. The reason we put this together the way we do and the reason we ask these open-ended questions of operators is we have some assumptions. I work as a marketing CMO for a operator. You are an operator. We talk to operators. There's some general ideas of what people want to know, but there might be great ideas about there about things we haven't thought about. We have data for. We just got to put it together, slice it, and dice it, and give it to them. So the next great idea could come from your guys' feedback on this report. But we really hope you dive in. We want you
Yes.
to use this. The report isn't going to make decisions for you. This is to stimulate that thinking, to give you some actionable insights that you can start thinking about. What do I want to collect? So don't forget to one, dive into the report, spend some time with it, share it with your site lead, share it with everybody in your organization. It's free for them to get access to. And then after you do that, get in there and give us those insights on what you think is more valuable. And tell us it was great. Tell us it was terrible. We're not filtering any feedback. We want all the feedback from you guys out there so that the Q1 2026 get better and the Q2 2026 and so on and so forth. Every report is going to be a better iteration of what came, and sky's the limit because we're collecting more data all the time. NCS and AMP are kind of at the forefront of car wash data as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. This is fantastic.
Well, I hope you guys enjoy the report. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to get into that and share it with as many of your colleagues in the car wash space as you can. And once you've got that email in there too, you'll get those alerts when we release that next report for Q1 of 2026. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you enjoy the report. And we're looking forward to seeing all your feedback.